Hello and welcome back to another 3 a.m. production video. This is the channel where we talk about animation, comic books, Disney movies, and drawing your favorite characters or your non-favorite characters or even characters that you've never even heard of while I give fun facts about it. Before we get too far into it, let's start off with
We have our heading.
Here we go!
Sorry, I've just always wanted to do that ever since the DVD Flash Play commercials. It's how it started off, so I figured I'd do the same. But this week we're talking about Peter Pan, the boy that never grew up. Originally starting off as a little chapter, if you even want to call it a chapter in a book. It was later translated into a play that then was turned into a novelization. Coincidentally, Peter Pan started off as a much darker take and even possibly murdered his own Lost Boys and possibly was even more evil than Captain Hook himself. But the play version of this story was a lot more happy-go-lucky, more song and dance, if you will. And Walt Disney himself, in a small production when he was younger, got to play Peter Pan in the school play. So when it came about adapting the screenplay into the movie, he went with the more happier-go-lucky route of it all. Now, the rights to the original story entered public domain in 2023, but the rights were actually given and donated by the author to a children's hospital. So that way anybody who is working to make it into a movie or another play or even Walt Disney trying to turn it into an animated movie would have to donate to this children's hospital to generate research and take care of these sick children, which is very nice of him. It was going to be the second release for the Walt Disney Pictures, but they could never really quite find a story that they were happy with. So they shelved it, and it ended up becoming the 14th animated feature film. But they also got a lot of radio star actors to come in and voice certain characters. Now, Disney made some changes to the play versus the movie. Like, for example, Skull Rock was never in the play, invented just for the movie. There's a moment in the play where Captain Hook tries to poison Peter Pan's medicine, and it's in several live-action iterations, but Walt Disney didn't want to do that, so instead of doing a poison, they did a bomb instead. But some things translated from the play into the movie was the same voice actor voiced the Darling's father, also played Captain Hook, just like in the stage version. Same thing with Nana and Tick-Tock, the crocodile. They gave Tick-Tock some more canine characteristics in the artwork just to pay tribute to that. The voice actor for Peter Pan, Bobby Driscoll, he was the first male actor to ever play Peter Pan. Before that, it was a bunch of women playing the role on stage to mimic the voice of a young boy. When the sound techs were trying to come up with a sound for Tinkerbell since she doesn't talk in the movie, they tried various versions of bells, but they could never, it sounded too harsh to them. So they eventually just strung together little bits of aluminum and would make them clang together, and that's how we got the sound for Tinkerbell. I mentioned this in a previous video, but they actually recycled an old song that they wrote in Alice in Wonderland and brought that back into the movie. But that's not the only thing they brought back. They brought the voice actors for Alice in Wonderland, for Alice, to be Wendy. They even recycled some old Goofy dialogue from a short that Goofy had for when Captain Hook is being chased by Tick-Tock. Again, the crocodile, not the social media service. I really miss the days where Tick-Tock was just a crocodile chasing around Captain Hook. The supervising animator for Peter Pan thought one of the hardest things to animate was just Peter Pan floating in midair, making it feel natural. Now, for this movie, they used a lot of live actor performances to insinuate the drawings and influence the way that they were going to pretend to fly in midair. The actress for Wendy noticed that she got to do less of that in this movie versus when she was in Alice in Wonderland, just because she didn't have a lot of people to act with for Alice in Wonderland, because most of those characters weren't real. But in this one, she actually got to work with a lot more live actors, which she appreciated, even if it was less work for her to do in live action. And the Disney animators liked working with some of these voices so much that they ended up inviting them back for future projects. Now, some of the backstage drama was originally the voice actor for Peter Pan had signed a 7-year contract that Disney had early released him from by 3 years, just because he was going through puberty and aging out of the role, so they decided to go in a new direction and release him from his contract. Disney even had them change the ending of the book/play to the movie because they didn't want to leave it open-ended for sequels. Because originally at the end of it, you come back years later and it's adult Wendy with her daughter. But that was later used in a 2002 sequel for Peter Pan, Return to Neverland, And subsequently, in the sequel, we ended up getting the name of all the Lost Boys. Although in the sequel, they left out the Native American tribe due to the controversy that the first one sparked. And because of the long spanning gap between them making the first movie and the second movie, there were only 3 voice actors in the second movie that actually were alive during the first one. One of which was notably Jim Cummings, who was only 3 months old at the time. And I've mentioned him to name a couple of times on this channel just because he voices so many Disney characters. At one point in time, they even toyed with doing a third sequel, which could have featured Peter Pan as a adult, middle-aged man who was living in England and needed back in Neverland for some unknown reason. Very similar to the premise of what became Hook with Robin Williams. But that sequel got scrapped when John Lasseter took over as chief creative officer of Disney Animation, along with a lot of other Disney sequels. But a lot of Tinkerbell spin-off movies were made instead. But crafting the story from what it once was of having the brown tan colored costume to giving it its vibrant green costume instead, to adding Pride Rock to the mythos, Walt Disney took special care to make sure that this world really was made out of faith, trust, and pixie dust. Now lots of studios have made Peter Pan projects, and there have been movies like Hook, or just Peter Pan, or Pan, but it's a story that can be told throughout the generations just because it is that youthful story of who doesn't want to not grow up and shirk responsibility and fly around and go to a mythical land where there's mermaids and pirates and adventure. I myself constantly daydream about what it would be like to fly. You know, the popularity of this character sparked Peter Pan syndrome, which I do like to partake in from time to time and be a little immature and have fun and be a kid again. And just like Peter Pan, who doesn't like a good story? You know, he goes to the Darlings' window just to hear their bedtime stories, looking for things to take back to his lost boys. Without our own stories, how do we sit there and tell history or make people laugh, share things with one another? And just because I don't want Tink's light to go out, I will say that I do believe in fairies. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've had a good time. If you followed along, please post in the comments below. I'd love to see the drawings you guys did, or if you guys have a favorite Peter Pan movie or moment, let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. If you guys have any other characters you guys want me to cover, post in the comments below. I'd love to get some characters and draw names out of a hat next time. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But until we meet again, I think it's the second star to the right and straight on till morning.